the defining principles of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat. I don't feel very qualified to speak about that, but as a disciple of Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dadev Goswami Maharaj, who is the founder of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat, what we understood from him, we will try to convey that to everyone. I think you already all know that, understand that in principle. And what is Sri Chaitanya Saraswat? So, when I joined in Krishna Consciousness, in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, in 1977, shortly after Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, and I served there for 5 years until I met Srila Sridhar Maharaj in 1982, and I became his initiated disciple in 1983. And growing up in ISKCON, we saw Krishna consciousness in a particular light through that. And of course that was Srila Prabhupada's, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, his vision of Krishna consciousness. And it was not wrong. Srila Guru Maharaj said of him, said like Julius Caesar, he said, I came, I saw, I conquered. So Guru Maharaj said that about Prabhupada, that he came to the West and he saw what was perfectly suitable for the Western people and presented Krishna consciousness in that way. And you can say 90% of what he established in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, 90% of that is the same as Sri Chaitanya Saraswat. But there may be some subtle differences, and maybe some defining differences. So, after we joined in Sri Chaitanya Saraswat, our former colleagues in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, they're always telling, they're Gaudiya Math. Now he is in Gaudiya Math. But actually, and still they refer to us as Gaudiya Math. But actually, we are no more Gaudiya Math than the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is Gaudiya Math. We are both coming in the line of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in that respect, we are Gaudiya Math, and the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that is also Gaudiya Math. But, as any member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will tell you, there are some things that they consider to be different from the Gaudiya Math. And similarly, in the Chaitanya Saraswat Math, there are some things that we consider different from the Gaudiya Math, or at least as how the Gaudiya Math is today, in a generic way. Some defining principles of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math which stand out as separate. Srila Sridhar Maharaj established the Chaitanya Saraswat Math in 1941, some years following the disappearance of his Guru Maharaj. And as is natural in the history of all organized religion, when the founder leaves the world, some disturbance must come in its wake. That was true in the time after the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, also true in the time after the disappearance of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. So there was much disturbance then after Saraswati Thakur's disappearance, and for some time Srila Guru Maharaj, he came to live alone, not wanting to involve himself in the, you can say, institutional politics and struggles that were going on in his Guru Maharaj's mission. And finally, he decided to establish the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And Guru Maharaj very carefully chose that name to show the line of Sri Chaitanya Dev coming through Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And his vision is that the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math is the place where the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur are perfectly practiced and preached. And in one sense, this is the defining principle of what is the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And we see, that to maintain that those principles which Srila Sridhar Maharaj established, when a mission becomes big or grows in any way, that becomes more difficult, as you have to accommodate more different people. So, but we saw that in the hands of Srila Govinda Maharaj, while he was present, he was able to manage the whole world without even doing anything, practically. Whatever he said, that was law. Whatever statement he made, everybody followed that without question. We are not in that time anymore now. He has also disappeared from our vision. And so necessarily some difficulties have come in our mission. And that may go on. It is only natural, actually. But what Srila Sridhar Maharaj established, we have to remain true to that. And that was, I can say, the guiding principle of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj's continued expansion of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And Gurudev's principle was that he was always very strict with himself, but at the same time very lenient and accommodating with everybody else. And this shows the perfect Vaishnavata. Sometimes he would say, I heard him say, actually many times, if I told openly what is Krishna consciousness, then everyone would leave this mission. But I do not want anyone to leave this mission, so I am not telling. So then, actually more or less we can say that our success in Krishna consciousness is only based on one thing, and that is the grace and affection of the true Vaishnava. And Srila Govinda Maharaj always so very gracious to everybody, and accepting everybody, embracing everybody. In fact, if you remember on the first few world tours, wherever he went, he's giving embrace to everybody. And one day he said, when he was in London, he said, I have to stop this now, because my problem is that I believe everybody. And sometimes those who I believe, they're trying to cheat me. So now I have to stop embracing everybody. Anyhow, I can say one thing that I noticed when we came to the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. That time there was one, I was staying in Navadvip Chaitanya Saraswat Math a little time then, and one quite famous sannyasi preacher from ISKCON, he came and wanted some connection with Guru Maharaj. And he's new to the Math, but he's also, grown up within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, it was noticeable to me, and I'm not sure, and I hope no one will take any offense, but maybe it's an American thing, but I've noticed when I've been in America, not with the devotees, but generally, when you meet someone, the first thing they ask you is, what do you do? And based on your reply, that's how they deal with you from then on. They kind of measure you based on that. Oh, what do you do? Then that kind of spilled over when we were in ISKCON. So when you would meet somebody for the first time, the question was always, what's your service, Prabhu? So what's your service? So then that devotee, that Maharaj, he was coming to the mott, and one of the devotees was showing him around. He was meeting all the devotees there. And as he meet, oh, this is so-and-so Prabhu, and his greeting to them was, oh, Hare Krishna, what's your service? And what's your service? And what's your service? And invariably, every single one of those devotees, their reply was, Vaishnava Seva. What's your service? Vaishnava Seva, that is my service. And even sometimes, no, but I mean, like, what specifically? No, Vaishnava Seva. And this was what Srila Sridhar Maharaj had instilled into his disciples very strongly. And I marked that in the beginning, that this is one defining principle of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. You can say a refinement which Srila Guru Maharaj wanted all of his followers to understand, that Vaishnava Seva is of paramount importance, foremost importance. We are to serve the Vaishnavas. Mahaprabhu himself has told that. In his discussion with Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami asked Rupa Goswami, please, in a very simple way, tell what is Krishna consciousness. And Srila Rupa Goswami told, Namaruchi Jivadoya Vaishnava Sevan. That you should develop love for the holy name, be kind to all living beings, and serve the Vaishnavas. And Srila Govinda Maharaj told us that Srila Sridhar Maharaj taught him this principle, first principle, serve the Vaishnavas, and he used this expression, Nimatsaranam. Nimatsaranam means without envy. Serve the Vaishnavas without envy. And this is a defining principle of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. So, when we find any difficulty in our spiritual life, in the mission of our Guru Dev, we see something. Thank you so much. Almost. If there was a Vaishnava. So, if we find any difficulty, we should look what would Srila Sridhar Maharaj say about this. This is what defines the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math as different from any other Gaudiya Math or any other Vaishnava institution, is its founder, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. His vision and his desire to spread Krishna consciousness So, sometimes you see people wear these t-shirts. I've seen, what would Buddha do? What would Jesus do? Have you seen them? These t-shirts. So, maybe we should wear, what would Sridhar Maharaj do? What would Sridhar Maharaj say? And, Srila Govinda Maharaj, that was what he was all about. Going all around the world to teach us what Srila Sridhar Maharaj has to say about this. What Srila Sridhar Maharaj would do in this situation. All of these things, Srila Gurudev came to spread that all around the world. And we must never lose that. And with all due respect to everyone, I want to say that other than Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, everybody else is disposable. And I mean that with the greatest respect to anyone. When we are speaking about the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, these two are the defining principles of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. Like Rupa and Sanatan, Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, they are quintessentially the most and only important authorities in our Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. And everyone else gains their authority and authenticity in as much as they follow and represent these two great Vaishnavas. And this is what makes Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math unique. So we see, just as in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, after their Guru Maharaj, their founder Acharya, disappeared, so many difficulties came in their society. And after so many years and so many trying in so many ways, they have understood that they have to focus on their founder Acharya. And by focusing on their founder Acharya, their mission has become again stable. Or more stable, we can say, than before. So this, in my humble opinion, is essential for us also, if we are to continue to be able to represent authentically the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, then we must refocus on the founder Acharya, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, and his divine servitor, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. Their teachings and their presentation of Krishna consciousness is singularly important to the development of Mahaprabhu's mission in the world. Mahaprabhu is told that in every town and village my holy name will be sung. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was asked regarding this, he said, he was asked, does that mean that you want to open a temple of Krishna in every town and village in the world? He said, no, that is not my vision at all. My vision is to make the heart of every man, woman and child a temple of Krishna. So this is Mahaprabhu's purpose for coming in this world. We heard from Srila Sridhar Maharaj one very wonderful thing, that often we hear that this material world is the Durga, or the prison house, for the rebellious souls who've rebelled against Krishna, come here to assert their independence. But Guru Maharaj said, although that is true, it is only one particular vision of the truth. But the furthest and deepest vision of the truth is this, that Lord Krishna, he is Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is Rasaraj. That means that he wants to enjoy all kinds of rasa. And one kind of rasa that he wishes to enjoy is, in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's words, the Lord's loving search for his lost servants. So, to facilitate that, and only to facilitate that, this material world exists. Because without any fallen souls, how would Mahaprabhu come to rescue the fallen souls? So, this is Guru Maharaj's vision. It is a very beautiful vision. You know, like in the US Marines, they have this saying, no man left behind. So this is Mahaprabhu's slogan. Also we can say, no one is going to be left behind. We can take advantage of that and maybe like come to the front of the queue because we've had some exposure to that. But everyone will be rescued by Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Dev. And for that purpose, this material world exists. Of course, then someone could say, well, you know, I don't have to do anything then, do I? And actually, if I become more fallen, then maybe I'll go further up the queue. So I'll be even more fallen. But actually, we have to see the example in Mahaprabhu's Leela that is given by Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai, we know, were so fallen. And so fallen that they struck Nityananda Prabhu. And Mahaprabhu came to punish them. But by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, they were both rescued and converted to Mahaprabhu's creed. But what is astonishing is that once they were accepted by Mahaprabhu, they never again returned to their sinful lives. Never even crossed their minds. Now that's called, you know, biting the hand that feeds you. They never did that. So we can say, at least I can say, for my own self, that my position is worse than that, because sometimes we want to go back to our previous life, enjoy in our previous way, if you like. But we should resist that temptation and try to become strong in our conviction that Mahaprabhu has come to rescue us. We want him to rescue us, but at least we need to hold up our hands to try and grasp his lotus hands as he reaches down to save us. So Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math stands for this, the liberation, emancipation, rectification and salvation of the whole world. All of mankind and more than mankind. I remember one Indian gentleman, he came to see Guru Maharaj. He was a friend of mine. And he's a judge, a High Court judge in London. Dr. Vishnu Sharma, his name was. And he came to see Guru Maharaj and he said, how can we convince the Western people to stop killing all the animals and to take to Krishna consciousness? And Guru Maharaj replied, why only the humans? Why not also the trees and the plants and the animals? They also can take to Krishna consciousness. So this was Guru Maharaj's vision. So fine Mahaprabhu's vibration that it can touch the hearts of the animals and the trees and the plants and so many. Even those that don't have hearts, he can touch them also. And we see that when Mahaprabhu was traveling through Jharkhand, the animals embracing each other and dancing and taking Krishna Nam by the power of Mahaprabhu's sound vibration, his chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he would often say to us, do you think that this is just a fun? And he means, Is it just like some entertainment to you, Krishna consciousness, a plaything that you're involved in, or like a lifestyle choice or something like that? How serious are you about Krishna consciousness? It is the most serious thing, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj always wanted us to understand that. He would say, don't believe this world. Don't believe what this world will show you. Don't put your faith there. Don't get involved in it. Because it's only a passing show. Try to utilize your fortune. This was Srila Gurudev's one of his favorite phrases. Utilize your fortune. Don't spoil your fortune. One time, one of my godbrothers, he asked Guru Maharaj this question: how can we please you? So, when the devotees would ask Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj the same question, I think more or less everyone here could tell me what the answer would be. When he was asked, how can I please you? Almost invariably his answer was, distribute my books. So maybe that devotee was thinking, when he asked Guru Maharaj, that Guru Maharaj would say something similar to that. So, how can I please you? Or how can we please you, was his question. Guru Maharaj sat back for a minute and he said, please me? Like, what? Oh, okay, yeah. Then it took a moment, oh yeah, because I'm your guru and you like that. Now I understand. Then he said, what I am for, what I want to give my life for, what I want to give my every breath for, my every last drop of blood, what I have heard from my Guru Maharaj, and what he conceives as being the only valuable thing, which is to give ourselves 100% for the service of Krishna, for the satisfaction of Krishna. I want to do that. And if you can also do that, then I'll be pleased. So, that's no small thing. That's a very serious thing. It's not something that we can, just do in our spare time, or something that we can, fit into our busy lifestyle. It's something that we have to be extremely serious about. And that was what Srila Guru Maharaj wanted from us. Another defining principle of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math was that Guru Maharaj would not allow us to believe that any institution will give us Krishna consciousness. That's up to us, how much we are able to surrender ourselves to the desire of our Gurudev, to make ourselves instrumental in his cause. Only that will give us Krishna consciousness. We have this beautiful festival now, and we are all coming, and we're all, like getting swept along with the beautiful atmosphere here, and hearing the wonderful devotees speaking, and having such nice Vaishnava Sangha, engaging in such lovely kirtans, and taking Mahaprasadam, and all these wonderful things. And that, of course, is wonderful. But that in itself will not give us Krishna consciousness. If when this festival's over, we just go home and go back to our mundane lives again, where we fit in Krishna consciousness on a Sunday or a Saturday or whenever it is, that won't give us Krishna consciousness. We have to give ourselves for that, as much as is possible for us. And of course, we all have so many obligations in this world. But don't make that your priority. That isn't your priority. We heard from Guru Maharaj that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there is nothing for you to aspire for in this world. nothing at all. It's not your home. It's not our purpose to try and put all the wrongs right in this material world. It's not our purpose to try and make this world perfect for us. We're not trying to adjust our environment so that we have a perfect life. If Krishna needed to do that, he would have already done that. And Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, there are so many difficulties and so many troubles in this world, just to remind you that this is not your home. If everything was easy and everything were perfect, we'd become attached, so much more attached than we are now to this material world. So, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, if I just stay at home and chant Hare Krishna on my japa mala, no trouble will come to me in my life. But as soon as I try to engage in the service of the Lord and in the preaching of this mission of Mahaprabhu, so much trouble must come to me. And we should expect that. And if no trouble is coming to you, then you're not doing it properly. Some trouble must come. And we should welcome that. As much as possible. The Lord will never give us more than we can tolerate. Although sometimes it may feel like that. It is all for our upliftment. If we can see it in that way, whatever comes in front of us, that behind that, the loving hand of the Lord is there. This we must always remember, that in the nature, the beautiful nature of Lord Krishna, there's not even a hint of malice. He never does anything that will harm us, because that's not within his nature. Everything that he does is only for our upliftment, only to bring us closer to him. And when we can accept everything that comes in our front in that way, then we'll make progress in Krishna consciousness. And we must try to make this our foremost objective in life. That I must try to come in connection with the absolute center. And the wonderful thing is that absolute center isn't an impersonal absolute. It is the most personal absolute. That means, Srila Guru Maharaj says, I am above everything, but I am your friend, your dearest friend. So, when we can understand that Krishna really is our dearest friend, then we should have no fear. We should have no fear whatsoever in our attempt to come to him. And this is paramount, and this is what Srila Guru Maharaj taught us, that by any way possible we must try to get some connection with Lord Krishna. In any way possible we must try to serve Lord Krishna. In any way possible we must try to understand Lord Krishna. In any way possible we must try to develop Krishna consciousness. Whatever that means. And the onus is on us. The onus is on us to do that. We must take responsibility. So we said, as I mentioned the other day, we had over 25 years of association of Srila Govinda Maharaj. That's extraordinary, to have that kind of association with such a Param Vaishnava. It's unthinkable. Then, during that time, we must have learned something, isn't it? You know, just recently, someone was giving a class in London, and they said, you know, that this thing that everybody knows. If the Guru says it's a snake, and you see it as a rope, it's a snake. And if Guru says that it's a rope and you see a snake, it's a rope. And I said, yes, Prabhu, that's very nice, but my Guru Maharaj already taught me what is the difference between a rope and a snake. So we must try to make the teachings of our Gurudev one with our heart. We must try to live what he taught us. Take responsibility for our own spiritual development, and that way we can help others. If we can't help ourselves first, we'll never be able to help others. You know, when I was coming here on the plane, I was thinking about that. You know, they give you the thing where you put on the life belt and, you know, all of that business when you get on. Nobody watches it anymore, right? They just carry it watching what's on their phone or whatever. But one of the things they say is, right, if there's a loss of oxygen, mask will fall down. And when that happens, make sure you secure your own mask before you try to help anyone else. And they in this little video they were showing, there's a lady with her child there. So she puts her mask on first, then she puts the mask on the child. So sometimes our instinct might be, I've got to put the mask on my child first. But if in so doing you pass out, and then you won't have been able to help yourself or your child. So this is very wise advice. First of all, make sure your own mask is secure, then you can help others. So first of all, make sure that you're situated in Krishna consciousness as best as you can be before you try to help others. Of course, Srila Gurudev told us, you don't have to be a fully qualified doctor before you can help someone if you see them in distress. With what you have now, whatever knowledge you might have now, you try to help them. If you're walking by the river and you see somebody drowning, you don't say, I'm just going to the swimming pool to get some lessons. As soon as I've, got my proficiency badge, I'll be back to rescue you. No, even if you can only do the dog paddle, you'll jump in and try and help that person. So, with whatever we have, and even if that's just, okay, I don't know anything, but I know somebody who does know something, why don't you come and meet that person? Once I was in Calcutta at the airline office, and the man sitting next to me, he was a mullah, like an Islamic priest, and I was dressed in dhoti with shaved head and tilak. And he starts speaking to me, and I'm expecting him, being in India, to be an Indian man, but he was from Texas, and he had this really broad Texan accent. And anyway, he says to me, right, oh, so you practice Hinduism? I said, well, Vaishnavism, and he said, he was trying to preach to me. If you've got a Mercedes-Benz, the latest edition, but you've got the 1970 manual for the 1970 Mercedes-Benz, that ain't going to help you. You got to have the up-to-date manual for the up-to-date model. He said, and Muhammad, he was the seal of the prophets, and he's... So this way he was trying to say to me, and I said, yes, what you say is perfectly true. And my Guru Maharaj, he's living in Navadvip now. Why don't you come and meet him? He's a living saint. He's got the most up-to-date manual. I said, oh, I'm flying to Texas tomorrow, I can't come. But his point was true, although it kind of backfired on him. But we need the connection of a living Vaishnava. This was also Guru Maharaj's one of the defining principles of our Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. That Guru Maharaj taught us, you must try to find a saint and serve that saint. And we were so fortunate that those saints found us, even though we didn't even know that was what we were meant to do. We had some fortune for that. But, service in the physical presence of Sri Guru and service in separation, if our consciousness is real, if our connection is authentic, there is no difference. And that can go on. If our intention is pure, I wish to continue to serve my Guru Maharaj. And if there is some real Vaishnava that we have the fortune of coming in connection with, even better for us. As Guru Maharaj often told us, the more guardians that we have, the more safe we are in Krishna consciousness. So we should always be eager to try to find the association of the higher Vaishnavas. And higher Vaishnava, that doesn't mean necessarily Mahabhagavat devotee. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, they were Mahabhagavat devotees. They were devotees who came from the spiritual world to give us their grace. But it doesn't mean that unless we can find someone of that caliber, that we're not interested in anyone. No. We should try to see our own position. And if we are true to ourselves, then we'll see that so many God brothers, God sisters, they're in a higher position than myself. If I can have their association, if I can get their service, I will be benefited. And if we are thinking, oh, no one is higher than me, no one is higher than my Gurudev, only my Gurudev, this is also a kind of Kunishta Adhikari sentiment. We hear Kunishta Adhikari, he only sees Krishna. He doesn't see the devotees. But another kind of Kanishta, he only sees his Guru and no one else. Only my Guru. My Guru is Jagat Guru and everyone else, they're nothing. But our Guru Maharaj didn't teach us that. Our Guru Maharaj taught us, serve the Vaishnavas without envy. Then we should try to see that in a realistic way. It doesn't mean that we should be naive and think that everybody is a saint. When you first come to the temple, you think like that, right? When I first came to the temple, it's a little embarrassing to say, I was only a boy, so if you'll forgive me for my naivety, but when I first came to the temple and I saw that they don't have any toilet paper in the toilets there, and I'm thinking, they're so advanced that they don't go to the toilet anymore. But that's a kind of foolishness, obviously. So, and we make the mistake, like the first week that I came to the temple, I was staying at Bhaktivedanta Manor. At that time, there's Radha Gokulananda, and on the other side, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, there. And I remember asking this devotee, because they're all devotees to me, they're all shaved with tilak, and so I don't know, like, who's high, who's low, who knows anything. And maybe this guy just came in yesterday, I don't know. But he's standing by the altar and I saying, okay, this is Radha and Krishna. Like, who are these? Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. He said, oh, some demigods or something. So, okay. So, so we need to be a little bit discerning in who we take advice from. All that glitters is not gold. So, we have to be a little bit intelligent, sensible. And the best way, because actually we don't have very developed vision to see who is advanced and who isn't advanced in Krishna consciousness. And sometimes we can easily mistake form and substance. In fact, we do it all the time. But the easiest way is to see who is a Vaishnava, who gets recognition from a Vaishnava, who we know is established as a Vaishnava. If they recognize someone, we can understand what is their position. So just like, when we came to Krishna consciousness, we only knew Srila Prabhupada. That's all we knew. We only knew him. We didn't know anything else, or that anything even existed outside of that. For a long time. I remember when I was in ISKCON reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in the purports, Prabhupada's writing, so much about Sahajism, about the Sahajya sects. And I was thinking, that's very interesting, but it doesn't really apply here in the West. There's just the Krishna consciousness movement, everything's fine. But, now we see Sahajism is rank in the Western world. Things going on in the name of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada understood that, obviously, otherwise why he would have written so much about that. So, but that Srila Prabhupada, who, I don't know how everybody's story, how they came to Krishna consciousness, but for many of us, we came through the preaching of Srila Prabhupada, through the books of Srila Prabhupada. Certainly that was the case in my life. But I heard from somebody that I respected within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that Prabhupada said once he was gone, if anyone had any necessity to find any questions about Krishna consciousness, they could consult with Sridhar Maharaj, his god brother. And he said that the only other person in the world that he considered qualified to comment on Srimad Bhagavatam other than himself, Sridhar Maharaj. And we read in Satsvarup Maharaj's biography, from the very beginning I knew he was a pure devotee of Krishna, that Prabhupada and Krishna wanted that he would prepare me. So like all these endorsements. Then, so many devotees, senior devotees of Prabhupada, they understood this. And after Prabhupada's disappearance, they went to Guru Maharaj. And sometime they were taking his advice. But as soon as he said something that they didn't like, then that was another story for many of them. But anyhow, we can understand that Srila Prabhupada recognized Srila Sridhar Maharaj as a real Vaishnava. And in fact, in my own case, I was a disciple of one of the gurus after Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON, and I was at Chaitanya Saraswat Mod with him in 1982. And one night, late at night, he turned to me and he said, "Prabhu, I am a crazy man, and tomorrow I could run off with some woman. But now you've come to the lotus feet of Sridhar Maharaj, he's the real thing. So you promise me that whatever happens, you will stay with Sridhar Maharaj." And I said, yes, Gurudev. No, I didn't really even think very much about, he's just being very humble. And no doubt he was. He was a humble man and with some very good qualities. But later when he showed that he was, you can say, leaving Krishna consciousness for some other thing, that came flooding back to me. Stay with Sridhar Maharaj. But that's what I determined to do. So I see he brought me to the lotus feet of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And I'm eternally indebted to him for that. But again, all that glitters isn't gold, So who really is a Vaishnava? And we're all trying to be Vaishnavas. Maybe on our, census form, Where it says religion, we say Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava, or Hare Krishna, or whatever it is. But that's our aspiration. We're aspiring to be Vaishnavas. But we should not think that we're Vaishnavas. Our Guru Dev is a Vaishnava, and we are trying to serve him. And hopefully one day, by his influence, we also may become something of a Vaishnava. But who is established there? No one can deny that Srila Prabhupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj is a real Vaishnava. How is it possible that Krishna consciousness is spread all over the world otherwise? It wouldn't be possible. More than just a real Vaishnava, Param Vaishnava. And he said, go to Sridhar Maharaj. So, knowingly or unknowingly, we came to the lotus feet of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and that was substantiated. When I came to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, actually it was kind of like a revelation. When I, just after being there a few days, I was reading Srila Prabhupada's book since I was 14 years old. And I more or less I'd read all of his books by the time I came to Guru Maharaj. And when I was walking around Chaitanya Saraswat Math, this feeling came in me, that all those things that I've been reading about all these years, this is all here. This is all happening here. It's not like just the tales from ancient India. This is like here and now and real, and this is like, those books have come to life here. And, I didn't really understand who is Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and even less I understood who is Srila Govinda Maharaj. But somehow or another, by causeless grace, I ended up there. We were a big party. We came to Guru Maharaj, a big party. And Guru Maharaj was very disturbed. He said, I become besides myself when there's so many people here. So I cannot tolerate it. He said, I can try to help you, but you can't live with me. You have to go and live somewhere else. He said, and you may say Sridhar Maharaj is very cruel, but I'm just telling you like it is, I can't have all these people here. So anyhow, that big party that we were moved down the road, Goranga Colony, a few miles from the mott. They made a big pandal and everyone was there. But again, by Krishna's grace, I wasn't with that party. I came a few days later on the plane, and I came to the mott, and when I came to the mott, I was given a room there in the mott. Then where the guest house was, where Madhusudan Maharaj always lived, then that was just being built then. And the floors were just like bare brick. I mean, literally brick. And like no windows or anything. But I'm in that room and I'm thinking, okay, I want to stay here. And then some of the other devotees, they said, oh, you got to move down to the pandal with everybody else, down on the land there. Okay, so I came down and I had a look and I thought, wow, this looks like hell. It was like this, like a thatched, maybe 4 times as big as this arrangement here. And it was so hot. It was like thatch and sheet metal walls that they made. It was more like something you'd expect to find animals in a pen on a farm, And there are all these devotees there, staying there, and they're all fighting with one another. And I'm thinking, oh no, I really don't want to stay here. So I wasn't very surrendered. So I went back. They're all saying, yeah, when you coming down? So I went back to the mott, and just like on a whim, I went up to Srila Guru Maharaj's room, and he was having his massage there, and the devotees let me come up. And Guru Maharaj started speaking to me. Oh, do you have some bedding? Do you have this? Do you have that? Yes, Maharaj. And then he said, is everything okay? And I said, Maharaj, can I stay here? And he said, yes, I have no objection. Okay, so I thought, okay, I've got, permission. So I went back to the room. I've not even got a mosquito net. There's no fans. There's just this bare brick floor. The windows didn't even close. There were just openings in the wall. And they gave me a mattress. And then one of the devotees gave me this mosquito net, and it had huge holes in it. It was almost so I'm trying to tie the holes up together. And anyway, but I didn't care. I was there. And every day, those devotees who were living down in that pandal, they used to come up to do Sankirtan, parikram. So they'd come up to the mott, and then there were other devotees staying in the mott, married people with children and that, they were staying there from our party. And I wasn't married then. So they'd come around, and they'd gather everyone up, and then they'd go down to Navadvip doing Sankirtan, and it was the weirdest thing you ever saw in your life. The strangest Sankirtan party you'd ever come across. Anyway, so when they would come up and gather everyone to go for the Sankirtan, I'd hide somewhere and wait for them to go. And once they were gone, then I'd come up and I'd sneak up to Srila Sridhar Maharaj's balcony, and he'd be talking with all these sadhu sannyasis, and I'd just perch somewhere in the back and listen to Guru Maharaj's talk. Then, but part of me was feeling really guilty, that I didn't go with the other devotees on the Sankirtan party. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should have gone, but when will I get opportunity to hear something like this? Like I said, when I was quite young, started reading Prabhupada's books, and I remember the very first thing that I heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj say. He was talking about the difference between Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan and Krishna's Leela in Dwarka. And there he's saying, in Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani, she has the topmost place. But in Dwarka, Rukmini, she has the topmost place. And she's representative of Chandravali. And Radharani representative is Satyabhama. And I'd never heard that before. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never heard anything like this before. And I remember very clearly that Guru Maharaj was speaking about that. So I'm thinking, I want to hear whatever he's got to say, I want to hear it. So then I'm kind of sneaky way, sitting and listening to Guru Maharaj. And then it was Guru Maharaj's habit, or custom, or whatever you want to say, practice, that if any Sankirtan party would come, if he's giving the talk, he stop his talk, he'll get up and he'll offer his pranam to the Sankirtan party. So that same Sankirtan party that I was hiding from, they're coming back now down the road, and their kirtan's going on. I don't want to describe it, but it was bizarre. A bizarre kind of kirtan going on. And as they're coming down the road, Guru Maharaj can hear, mridanga, kartals, okay. Then he stopped his talk and he got up and he came to the front of the balcony, and he's listening to the kirtan and with folded hands. And they come, and they're coming up to the front gate, and then coming in the gate. Then Guru Maharaj listened for a few minutes. Then he sat down and he said, if the Sankirtan party is not led by a Shuddha Bhakta, it may just be Namaparad. And then I thought, okay, now I feel justified not going on their Sankirtan party. Anyhow. it was like a turning point in my life, coming to Guru Maharaj. And I felt, very quickly I felt that he is my Guru. And whatever he wanted to say about anything, that was all I was interested in. Only what he had to say about anything. Then, and one thing, it's a strange thing, but I would hear his talk, and then afterwards, when I was back in my room, someone devotee would say, "So what was Sridhar Maharaj talking about this morning?" I say, "You know, I can't remember a thing. Not one thing that he said." But later on, if some, like conversation came up, I said, "Oh yeah, Sridhar Maharaj was talking about that just the other day," and then I could remember, and like almost completely remember that. So, when it became important or in context. So, and in those days, Srila Govinda Maharaj was there, but we didn't know who Srila Govinda Maharaj was. Only we knew that Guru Maharaj calls him Govinda Maharaj, although he's like dressed in white cloth and going about his business and, making sure the devotees have everything, and doctoring the devotees. If anyone's ill, he's giving medicine and, like telling them what they should do and everything. We didn't know that, who he was. But gradually we got to some idea that Guru Maharaj, he's not making any decision about anything if Govinda Maharaj isn't there. If Govinda Maharaj isn't there and they need to make some important decision, he said, when Govinda Maharaj comes, we'll decide. So I'm thinking, Govinda Maharaj. Then he's very humble and also, as you know, very funny. He's always making jokes, and like sometimes I'd be sitting in my room and suddenly I can feel like there's water on my face. Like, what's going on? And then through the door, there's Srila Govinda Maharaj with a water pistol. It was so funny. And then we heard a few things, like Srila Govinda Maharaj, when he wasn't there, we heard Guru Maharaj say some things about him. He's a natural Paramahamsa. He's more qualified than I am qualified for this, and so many things. And we heard Guru Maharaj say, somebody asked Guru Maharaj, like, why do you call him Maharaj? Like, he's a Grihasta. And Guru Maharaj said, because his service never leaves the Nirguna plane. Then we're thinking, wow, who is this Govinda Maharaj, And then when I was back serving in London, I was a very naughty, reckless, obstinate, and I was the cook. I was pujari for some time and also cook for some time in the mott while I was a brahmachari. And there was one devotee who was he was the temple president. I say temple president because Guru Maharaj didn't like temple president. He preferred secretary. Once he said to me, "We don't have any temple presidents. I'm the only president of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mott." He liked a more humble title, so secretary of the mott. Anyway, the temple president at that time, his name was Brajabihari. He was American devotee. And one day, it was maybe Janmashtami or some festival day, I forget which festival day it was, and I'm cooking, right? Just, how things go sometimes. I'm the only cook, and the offering time is coming up, and I wasn't ready. so the offering was late. Then one sannyasi was staying with us there, and I went up and I said, "Oh, Maharaj, the offering's going to be late." He said, "Don't worry, Prabhu, when it's ready, we can offer then." Anyway, suddenly that Prabhu comes in the kitchen, all really angry. "Why is the offering not ready?" I said, "Oh, it's all right. I already told Maharaj, and he said it's okay when it's ready." He said, "He's not in charge, I'm in charge." I said, "Okay." He said, "You get it ready," and he's like really chastising me. And at that time, I'm making some puri dough. And when he turned round, being youthful and angry young man, I picked up the dough and I boshed on his head. And I said, "Then you make it!" And I stormed out of the temple. And the next day, I was living nearby to the temple, and I had a little flat just up the road. And next day, pushed under my door, this note saying, "Your service is no longer required in this temple. Please don't come anymore." So okay. Then somehow, and I don't know how, but the news of this came to Navadvip. Remember, there's no internet then. There's not even a phone in Navadvip at that time. So if you wanted, urgently to contact the mott, you had to send a telegram. So anyway, somehow or another, the news came to Guru Maharaj that the cook in the mott in London, he bashed the president over the head with the puri dough, and he's been expelled. And it was my fortune that when that was told to Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj was there, and Srila Govinda Maharaj said, I heard later on, actually, I didn't know this, but later on I heard from Srila Govinda Maharaj, he told me, he said, the news came, and I said to Guru Maharaj, "Oh, but Devashish, he's a very nice boy." then a telegram came, right? So that maybe 3 or 4 days later, I'm staying at home, feeling very bad, and then another letter comes through the door, and it says, from the temple president, "Please return to your service and meet me this afternoon." So I went to the temple, and we embraced, and I asked his forgiveness, and then he showed me a telegram from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and the telegram said, "I gave Devashish Prabhu this service, only I will take it away from him." So why I'm telling you all this is because everything we are in devotion is due to the grace of the Vaishnava, the mercy of the Vaishnava. So I think Srila Govinda Maharaj knew what kind of person I was, but somehow or another, by his affection, he intervened, and I regained my service there. And I was very bad in those days. But this is important to us, that we get the grace of the Vaishnavas. Even if you are a very bad person, if the Vaishnava will give some grace to you, some favor to you, then you have some prospect in Krishna consciousness. And you may be very saintly and very moral but if you do not have the grace of a Vaishnava, you won't get anything in Krishna consciousness. This is a quintessential, all-important point in Krishna consciousness, is that we must get the affection of the Vaishnavas. It's our saving grace. If they think he's a nice boy or he's a nice girl, then everything's okay. Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say, "I was a very bad boy." I'm sure you've all heard him say that, right? But Guru Maharaj, he saw something else. And Guru Maharaj deposited all of his wealth in Srila Govinda Maharaj. And everything we are is due to those two Vaishnavas. And this is what defines the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. Without them, there is no Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. They can never be replaced by anybody. You know, when you see, one thing that we forget, right, is we think that how everything's set up now, like that's how it's always been. That's the tradition from time immemorial. But that's not true. This is all new. This was all established by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the last couple of 100 years. There wasn't any, temples with parampara pictures and all of this in the time of Mahaprabhu. It didn't happen. That wasn't there. There's no record of that. This was all established by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, we're still trying to find our way in how this should go. In ISKCON, they have the Vyasasana of Prabhupada everywhere. But there's no Vyasasana in Chaitanya Saraswat Math in Navadvip. You won't find any Vyasasana there. Unless we're talking about that old beat-up chair that Guru Maharaj used to sit in, which is more than any Vyasasana to us. But when Guru Maharaj heard, right, they have the Vyasasana for Prabhupada, and then the new Gurus, they also have their Vyasasana, but a little lower, okay? Then Guru Maharaj was laughing, and he said, and one day there will be Vyasasanas all the way from the mountains to the ocean. So, we don't actually know that this is how things will be forever. We're still trying to find our way in that. And we're just doing the best that we can. So it's not that there's any hard and fast rules about how, your temple should be set up and, all of those things. That's not so important, actually. What's important is our fidelity to the teachings of our Gurudev. Then everything will be perfect. And, otherwise we just get caught up in the form. And what is that form? That can change at any time. Form and substance is a very difficult thing because the substance is couched in the form. Everything has to have some form attached to it. But, but that can change according to the time, place, and circumstance. There has to be some fluidity in that. The important thing is that we don't sacrifice the substance for some form. Otherwise, it becomes a dry shell, empty. And even if we get the form completely wrong, if the substance is intact, it doesn't matter. And Guru Maharaj used to use this example: what's more important, the nose or the breath? So, like today, everybody wants the perfect nose, don't they? There's plastic surgeons, they make their living out of getting, especially for young boys and girls now, they get the right nose. Their parent, I've even seen, their parents buy them a nose for their 21st birthday, right? They were unhappy with the one they got. They got a new one now. Okay. So maybe they look lovely with their new nose, or maybe they look like Michael Jackson, I don't know. But if they can't breathe through that nose, it's completely useless. But if you lose your nose, but you can still breathe, then that's okay. Where there's life, there's hope, So we need life. We need life, spiritual life. We need spiritual life. And the form is always secondary. So, it doesn't mean that how things were established in the, early 1900s is how things will be forever. It may be completely different. We see how much the world is changing already. You know, like when I joined in 1977 in the Krishna consciousness movement, we gave up everything. Like everything that we were connected with, we left it all behind. But today, if someone joins and you say to them, okay, hand over the mobile phone, hand over the laptop, no one will stay, will they? What? You've not got Wi-Fi? I mean, what am I going to do? That's just the way the world is now. It's almost inconceivable for anybody to think, no, I'm not going to have my mobile phone or my laptop or whatever it is. That means we have to rethink things, you know? Because, you know, it says, an idle mind is the devil's workshop, right? But an idle mind with a really good broadband connection, that's even worse, right? So, you know, my friend who's the temple president of ISKCON in London, he told me that when new devotees join, they have to sign a contract. And they're not allowed to have mobile phones and laptops and all this. They have to sign a contract saying they're prepared to accept these terms. And if their service demands that they use a laptop or have a mobile phone, they're issued to them. And when the service is over, they're taken back again. So because he said, we had this problem, right? Devotees online at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're not looking at anything Krishna conscious. So that's the world we live in. So, you know, then the traditional ashram life as we knew it, maybe those days are over. I don't know. But if they're not over, they're certainly more difficult than they ever were. So, you know, then some adjustment has to be made for the age that we live in. But the important thing is that we don't sacrifice the spirit and the principles on which this mission is founded. That's all important. And it takes maybe a little reflection on our own part to we have to look a little bit deeper to try and understand what that is. Just following some... You see, Krishna consciousness isn't a process, although some people might like you to think it is. Sadhana is only to support that, to support our development of Krishna consciousness. Real Krishna consciousness is giving the heart, giving yourself to the Lord. Understanding what your actual purpose in life is. It's not to stay high forever. Maybe that's a hook to bring us in. You know, chant Hare Krishna, stay high forever. That sounds good, doesn't it? But that's not the goal of Krishna consciousness. Ask Kunti Devi. Was that what she got? No, she got... You know, like when Narad, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he's going around to find out, like, who's the greatest devotee of Krishna. When he comes to the Pandavas, you know, and he says to Yudhishthira Maharaj, wow, Krishna lived with you like your own brother, and, you know, like so intimate with you and your family. Surely you're the greatest devotees of Krishna. Yudhishthira Maharaj said, Narad, what are you saying? He said, if you tell that to the world, that we're the greatest devotees of Krishna, no one is going to become a devotee of Krishna. Look at all the things that happen to us. You know, the poison cake, the house of shellac, like so many, the banishment, the war, the battles, there's so many things. How much they suffered. Then Yudhishthira said, when people see that, they'll think, if that's what it means to be a devotee, I don't want anything to do with that. Thank you very much. But Kunti Devi, she says the opposite of that, right? She says, when these troubles come, we think about you, because you are our shelter. Then she says, let them come more and more. Because when everything's great, we don't really think about Krishna. We don't think about you in the same way. And that's how it is in life, right? When everything's going well, we're enjoying like anything, we might say, Jai Krishna, and go on our way, enjoying our life. But when difficulty comes to us, that the only recourse is to take shelter of Krishna, then that demands some real introspection and self-surrender. We know in Mahabharata, that is the Vastraharana of Draupadi, when they try to disrobe her. After Yudhisthira gambles away Draupadi, and Duryodhana says, bring her. We want to see our new possession. And Draupadi was not in a clean position to come, but still they dragged her there. Dushashan is Duryodhana's brother. Dushashan is a Maharati. A Maharati means he had the strength of 1,000 elephants. And Draupadi was a strong woman, but there's not anyone here, all of us combined, that could compete with 1,000 elephants, I think. And Draupadi also knew that. So when Duryodhana said, so let's see what we've got, and take off her dress, and Dushashan began to tug her sari, then she's holding on, for her dignity. And finally, she realized, I'm not going to be able to fight with him. So she knew, only Krishna can save me. And she called to Krishna. She called to Krishna, but still she's holding on. Then finally she realized, hey Krishna, and threw her arms in the air, hey Gopi Jana Vallabha. Krishna came. Guru Maharaj said, when he heard Gopi Jana Vallabha, he couldn't resist. He had to come. And invisibly, he protected her dignity by providing her with unlimited cloth to cover herself. Guru Maharaj, that in the whole Mahabharata, this is the highest point of the whole Mahabharata. Said even higher than Bhagavad Gita is the Vastraharana of Draupadi. Draupadi's surrender to Krishna. When you find yourself completely dependent on him with no other recourse, and you call to him, he'll come to you. He won't ignore you. This is Sharanagati. Then this is what Guru Maharaj wanted to teach us. Guru Maharaj said, when I came to live alone, giving up the valuable association of my godbrothers, I thought, what is the one indispensable thing in the life of a devotee? What is it that will sustain me in my solitude? He said, my conclusion was Sharanagati. Without Sharanagati, everything is just a formality. Without Sharanagati, surrender to the Lord, nothing actually has any real meaning. No practice of Krishna consciousness has any real meaning without surrender. Then Guru Maharaj wanted to teach us Sharanagati. That's why he composed Prapanajivanamritam. And Guru Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, just as we should read Bhagavad Gita every day, we should read Prapanajivanamritam every day. We should study that. And Guru Maharaj himself says, this subject of Sharanagati, we must discuss it. We must cultivate it. Because it's not just that we will say, oh yeah, we love Krishna, we're all very much surrendered to Krishna. It won't do. It has to become real. And that's only possible through Sharanagati. Only possible through internal, real self-dedication. Then that takes time, and that takes practice, and that takes endurance. So Srila Rupa Goswami says we have to endeavor with patience, but we have to endeavor. Then no other choice. Sharanagati, this is Guru Maharaj's most essential teaching. That it doesn't matter how many rounds of japa you chant every day, how many obeisances you make to the devotees, how many times you worship the deity. None of these things matter if Sharanagati isn't there. This is the most quintessential thing that we have to cultivate, that we have to learn about Krishna consciousness. And this was Srila Sridhar Maharaj's defining vision, that Sharanagati is everything to the devotees. But we're not Sharanagatas. Then we have to try and cultivate that. We have to try and deeply understand what that is. And the first thing that we need to understand is that we're not that. Just like when you're they have Alcoholics Anonymous. When you're an alcoholic, you go to the meeting and they say, okay, we got a new member today, Bob. Bob, would you like to introduce yourself? Bob stands up and, my name's Bob, I'm an alcoholic. This is like the first thing you have to do is you have to recognize you've got a problem. So we need to stand up and we just say, my name's Devashish and I'm a material world addict. So this is the fact, actually, maybe we want to be devotees of Krishna, but we're addicted to this material world. But first of all, we have to admit that. Yeah, I'm addicted to this material world. Like all these mean and nasty things that occupy my mind and my consciousness, I'm addicted to them. I can't leave them. I want to leave them, but I can't leave them. But first of all, I have to admit I've got a problem. And so long as we're just carrying on thinking, yeah, I'm a devotee, I chant my rounds every day, I do this, I do that, like everything's assured. It's not. Sripad Nyasi Maharaj told me last year when he was in Vrindavan, they were having some meeting at the Krishna Balaram Mandir of some older disciples of Prabhupada. So they on the parikram or something, they met Maharaj, and they knew him. Sri Govinda Prabhu, you're Maharaj now. We're having this meeting. Why don't you come and speak something about Prabhupada? So okay, I'll come. So he came there, and they, asked him to speak something. They said better not to say anything about Sridhar Maharaj. But if you just speak about Prabhupada, okay, I'll just speak about Prabhupada. So Maharaj said, I thought I'd started off with a joke. So he said, when all those years ago, we were, and we were all thinking, if we just chant 16 rounds a day and follow the 4 regulatory principles, we'll go back to Godhead in this life. This was Maharaj's joke, right? Nothing. They're all looking at him like, yeah? That's right, yeah. What? He said, I moved on quickly onto something else. So, when you're a kid and your mum says to you, don't go out in the street. You can play with your friends, but you have to stay in the garden. It's dangerous out there in the street. But when you're a grown man and somebody comes, let's go. Oh, no, Mum said I have to stay in the garden. They're going to think, something wrong with this man. So, when we first come and we think, Krishna consciousness is something very easy and something that we'll attain very quickly, just by following A, B, and C, we'll get these results. That's not the case. As Guru Maharaj said, it's not a fun. It's not a game. It's something very serious. And you have to be prepared to do whatever it takes to get that. Anything in this world, right? If you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or how much sacrifice do you have to make out of your life to get that, to attain that? How many years of study, clinical practice, like long hours working in the AR and, the emergency room, as you call it over here, all these things, right? But people think, yeah, it's worthwhile. I'm prepared to do that, make those sacrifices for all those years, because at the end it's going to be worthwhile. But do we think that Krishna consciousness is like less than that? That it demands anything less of us in our lives? So, we all have to make our way in the world, but it's no excuse for, making Krishna consciousness our second choice. That's the most important thing, that the most imperative thing in our life. That is life. Guru Maharaj said, that is reality. Krishna consciousness is reality. Everything else is just part of the illusion. Somebody said to me, well, they were leaving the temple, and they said, I said, where are you going? They said, I've got to follow my dreams, Prabhu. I said, no, you don't, because they're dreams, right? Why do you have to follow a dream? Follow reality. Krishna consciousness is reality. Why are you letting yourself be distracted by all these other things? So this is our imperative, that although, we may have families, we may have responsibilities, we may have so many things that we have to deal with in our life, but that's not our goal. Our goal is Krishna consciousness. And somehow or another, you've got to work that in around all of those other things and make it your number one priority. Arrange your life as best you can so that you can practice Krishna consciousness, so that you can serve the Vaishnavas, so that you can give yourself to the mission of your Guru Maharaj. When we came, that's what we came for. And now something else has taken precedence over that. That's not acceptable. Srila Govinda Maharaj said that. We made a promise to our Gurudev, and now our some circumstances come in our life that we're not able to fulfill that promise. Well, that's not acceptable. Why did we make that promise? It's not a fun. It's serious. So, okay, when we're children and we're learning to walk, we're going to fall over many times. But get up and try again. Don't give up. When the child's learning to walk, the first time he trips over, he doesn't just lie there for the rest of his life, does he? He tries again. And that's what we have to do. We'll fall over, but try again. And try again, this time like in a stronger way, more determined way. And you'll get it. Because when you make a few steps towards Krishna, he'll come towards you. When we try to reach him, he'll pick us up and he'll take us to him. But we've got to try. And sincerely we have to try. As much as possible we have to try. And until our death we have to try. Otherwise, why? Why continue living? What for what? Just for some dream? For some illusion? No, we have to wake up to reality, but we have to remember that reality is not harsh, reality is beautiful. Lord Krishna is so beautiful. We cannot imagine how beautiful he is and what our prospect is with him. We can't imagine. Whatever you can think of that is desirable in this world, it's nothing compared to him. In the Bible it says nobody can look on the face of God and live. Why is that? Is he so terrible that you'll just die when you see his face? No. What does it mean? It means because he's just so incredibly beautiful. You can't see him and live as you are now. It's impossible. I have a friend who lives in South India. He's a musician. He told me, when he came to stay with me a few years ago, and he told me, I saw Lord Shiva. I said, oh yeah, what do you mean? He said, yeah, I actually had real darshan of Lord Shiva. Okay. How did that happen? He said, well, I was in the temple of Lord Shiva, there was some puja going on, and suddenly I felt this terrible pain. I was rushed into hospital, like had a burst appendix. He said, but while I was under the anesthetic, Lord Shiva revealed himself to me. He said, wow. And then I said, so like, what happened after that? He said, well, nothing, I saw Lord Shiva and now I'm continuing my life. I said, don't you think it's more likely that you were in the temple of Lord Shiva and then, that happened to you, they heavily sedated you with some drug and you were dreaming about Lord Shiva, that was what you were thinking about in your like drug-induced hallucination? He got very angry with me. And I said, but Mahadev, we're talking about Mahadev. How can you see Mahadev and still continue your life just as before? Is that feasible? Then you will have like real connection with divinity and that won't change you. So, real connection with Krishna, it must change us. In fact, Srila Jiva Goswami, that's his definition of Bhagavan. That the only real, normally we hear, right, Bhagavan means he who is full with 6 opulences and like this, But Jiva Goswami Prabhu, he says, anyone who comes in connection with him, the only real response is that they must give themselves to him. That's the only possible response. So, it's a really, we're really far away from that. But that's the only prospect that we have. The only prospect that we have is to try and connect ourselves with him. That's what life's meant for, And as Srila Gurudev would say, don't spoil your fortune. Don't waste your fortune. So much we've had, grace we've had. Once when I was with Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj in Navadvip, and he was talking to someone on the phone, and that person said, so Maharaj, please give me your blessings. He's saying, give me your blessings, and Gurudev said, I already did that. Have they run out? Why you're asking more? Did they run out what I gave you? So, this is the fact that Srila Govinda Maharaj, really he blessed everyone so much. And, not just in a superficial way, yes, I give you my blessing. No, like real, substantial. He wants to take us to the lotus feet of Guru Maharaj. That was his only objective. Why he traveled around the world so many times, like at so much inconvenience to himself sometimes, to his health, to, so many things. But only to bring us to the lotus feet of Guru Maharaj. And that was his blessing to us. And he's not withdrawn that. That's still there. We just need to connect with it. It's important. It's the most important thing. Nothing else is more important than that. And if you go away from this Mela with one thing, it should be that I have to dedicate myself to the service of my Gurudev. More and more and more. And nothing else is important. It doesn't. Everything else will disappear in the world. Everything that you think is important in your life now, it'll all disappear. Believe me, you know it. Then don't worry about that. Those things will happen as they're meant to happen. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he said, there's nothing that you need to do to bring about your karma. It's already coming. And there's nothing you can do to prevent it from coming. So don't worry about it. It's coming anyway. Put it to one side. Deal with it when it comes. Your only duty is to serve Lord Krishna. Saraswati Thakur said, we don't admit any kind of famine in this world except for Krishna consciousness. If the whole world is on fire, let it burn. We don't have time to try and put it out. Let the world burn. He said, better that it burns, because then you don't have to deal with those burnt things anymore. So, we don't have anything else to do in life. No other duty in life. And if we understand that, everything else will happen in a perfect way. We don't need to worry. When we surrender to the Lord, He'll take care of everything. Sudama Vipra, he didn't worry about anything. He didn't even ask Krishna for help. But the Lord knew his heart. And you see what was the result. More than he could ever imagine. But we're not thinking, I can take some flat rice and yogurt and offer that to Krishna and I'll get a mansion. And sometimes people think like that. So, I hear that. Especially in East London, so many Indian people, they come and they say, just give one pound to Krishna, 100 pounds will come back to you. This is not pure devotion. So, and we are interested in pure devotion. If we give ourselves to Krishna, we don't need to worry about anything else, because He'll take charge of everything. He is our guardian. And if He gives us pleasure or if He gives us pain, it doesn't matter. Everything will be as it's meant to be. And if we surrender to Him, we'll come to Him, then everything will be perfect. So, this is what I want everybody to leave this Mela, at least with this idea, that whatever happens in my life, nothing is more important than that I will cultivate Krishna consciousness, that I will try to surrender to my Guru and to Krishna. Then next year, if this happens again, and I really hope that it does happen again, whether I'll be able to come or not, I don't know. But you'll all come and you'll all be able to say, like, how much more I've been able to dedicate myself to the service of the Lord. We don't need to be perfect. But if we think, just like I can try 1% more every day to dedicate myself to the Lord, then by this time next year, you should be 365% more dedicated to the Lord than you are now. It's worth a go, isn't it? Anyway, with your permission, I'll stop here, unless anyone has some question or anything they want to add to that. Krishna Shaya Prabhu?
I just had two questions. One of them is that what is the effect of Mayavadi philosophy and Sahajiyism on one's devotional service? And the second question is, how do we recognize Mayavadi philosophy and influence and Sahajiyism in our environment and in ourselves?
Okay, simple questions, eh? Well, Mahaprabhu forbid his followers to read the commentary of Shankaracharya. Only Jiva Goswami was given that service for the purpose of refuting the commentary of Shankaracharya. So, that advice is good advice. Don't read Shankaracharya's philosophy. He's Lord Shiva. You don't think that you won't be convinced by him? You must be convinced. But if you read it, you must be convinced. So steer clear. And steer clear of those who are followers of him, unless you're able to give something higher. First thing. But Sahajism, that is a more difficult thing. And it's a very dangerous thing, Sahajism. Sahaja means imitation. Actually, Krishna's Leela is called Aprakrita Sahajya Leela. That means, the word Sahajya means doing what comes naturally. Right? So Krishna's Leela is his natural Leela, but Aprakrita. Aprakrita means transcendental. In no way ever mundane. But the opposite of that is Prakrita Sahajya. Prakrita means mundane and mistaking the mundane for the divine. A few things we heard from Guru Maharaj in regard to this. The one funny story he told us, that one of his godbrothers, in Navadvip there was a Sahajya Guru who has become very popular there, and he was particularly wanted lady disciples. So, and this godbrother, his wife, she became interested to hear from him. So that devotee, he's telling his wife, no, not to go there, don't go there, but she wouldn't listen to him, so she went there. But he also went there because he'd heard something, you know. So he's hiding in that man's room in the cupboard, and in the dead of night, that he told that man's wife, you come there, I'll give you a special mantra. And she came, and she sat with him on his bed, and he told, this is the mantra, and he whispered in her ear, Tumi Radhe Amisham. That means, you are Radha, I am Krishna. Then Guru Maharaj said, then that godbrother, he jumped out from the cupboard with a big stick and said, and my stick, my lati is Balaram. So many higher things, we do not have entrance to that. So we should be very cautious about that. One time somebody asked Srila Guru Maharaj, my godbrother, he said, Maharaj, I read that sometime in Vrindavan, Krishna is, when the cowherd girls, they're picking flowers, and Krishna comes out from the bushes and says, why are you picking these flowers? They belong to me. If you want to buy them, if you want to pick these flowers, you have to pay for them, and the price is a kiss. Then he said, can you tell us something about this? And Guru Maharaj became very serious, and he said, you should not even let your mind think about this for even a moment. And then he said, Krishna's pastimes with the cowherd boys, to some extent you can hear about that, but anything more than that, even Vatsalya Rasa, you should not hear about that. So to be very cautious about that. Then and Guru Maharaj would also say, you know, the higher literatures, Ujjvala Nilamani, Govinda Lilamrita, all these things, he told even his godbrothers, he said, even you may be qualified to read these, but still you should not, because our Guru Maharaj did not allow it. So we should not entertain these things at all, not even for a moment. And those that do, we should avoid them very carefully. Those who say, and there are those who say, that if you've been chanting Hare Krishna for 10 years, you should be able to read about Rasa Tattva. What nonsense is that? Srila Govinda Maharaj was asked this question. If these books are not meant for us to read, then who are they written for? And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, they're written for those who can appreciate them. But what we should do, we should worship those books. We can worship those books. We don't read those books. You know, in that a long time ago, Srila Govinda Maharaj told us that in the time of Guru Maharaj, there's a very important book in Mahaprabhu's one favorite book, Krishna Karnamritam, by Bilva Mangal Thakur. Maybe you've heard about it, right? So at that time, that there was no copy of that book available anywhere. It was out of print. And when Guru Maharaj understood that, he told Govinda Maharaj, we have to print that book, because otherwise it'll become lost. So maybe Guru Maharaj had a copy, or anyway, they printed that book. And Guru Maharaj told, print this many copies and so on. And then when it was printed, he said, and you may not sell that to anyone. So only for preserving it was it published. Long time ago, it was published in English, or an English version of it by the Madras Gaudiya Math. When I was in my, collecting books phase, I got that book, and I began reading it. Maybe, like 12 or 13 verses in, I forget now. When you get in there, Bilva Mongol, he gives this warning. He says, if you're not free from the mundane conception of man and woman, don't read any further than this, because you'll misunderstand. So I just closed the book up, put it back in the bookshelf, and that's where it remains, gathering dust to this day. I'm sorry to say, or I'm glad to say, whichever way you want to take it. But never. Then, but I thought about that, right? He says the next verse is going to describe something very intimate about the pastimes of Radha and Govinda. You will take it to be mundane if you're not free of a mundane idea about men and women. If you're still in that conception. So I thought about it. What does that mean? Does it mean we'll read it and think, oh, that's mundane? Is that what we'll think? No, it's the opposite of that. It's we'll read it and we'll think that with my idea of mundane sexuality, which I cannot but project onto that I will think that I'm relishing something transcendental. That's what it means. That's what Sahajiyism means. That thinking that with your mundane idea, because we have no reference point to the spiritual world. The only reference point we have is our experience in this mundane world. Right? So then necessarily through that filter we'll try and understand those things. There's no other way for us to understand until that comes down upon us from above. So don't go there, because you're bound to make a mistake. And not just a mistake, but an offense. So, Guru Maharaj used to say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Well, you mustn't do that. So, there's like so much in Krishna consciousness that we can concentrate on already. Is anyone here who can say they've read and understood all of Guru Maharaj's books? Then, go back to the beginning and start again. You'll find something new and revelatory in there, and for the rest of your life. You don't need anything more than that. And when that day comes, it's not that we reject those things. That's our aspiration. Ultimately, our goal is that. But in the right way, in the proper way, in the proper time. But we don't need to make any extraneous endeavor for that. When that's meant to come to us, it'll come to us. Otherwise, we've got so many other things that we can spend our time on for now. We've got anartha nivritti to get through first. Before all the higher stages, even nishta, right? Nishta, Guru Maharaj said nishta, nothing. So the gap between bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti and nishta is so vast that we're going to be within that for lifetimes and lifetimes yet. Don't worry about anything else, That's why Srila Govinda Maharaj said, my religion is finding fault with myself. This means anartha nivritti. That's what we're about. And that's what we should be giving our time for, that, anartha nivritti. And there's no end to that, believe me. There's no end to that. So, and how we can recognize those things in ourselves is that if we see that that's not in accordance with what our Guru Devas taught us. This is our check and balance system. Always, what did Guru Maharaj say? What did Srila Govinda Maharaj say? Is this going to please him? And if we can say with our hand on our heart, yes, it will, and even then we should be cautious. Check with the Vaishnavas if that's real or not. That's our check and balance. The Vaishnava, Guru Maharaj said, the Sadhu Guru Shastra. These have to be all in accordance, an agreement. And the fourth principle, the heart has to say yes. So, sincerity is everything. If we are sincere, like Guru Maharaj said, if I'm not in the market to be cheated, then nobody can cheat me. But if I want something cheap, there's plenty of cheaters out there. You just have to walk down the road, you'll bump into a few of them, no doubt. So, we don't want to be in the market to be deceived. And the easiest way to be deceived is to deceive yourself. So try to be sincere and try to be true to yourself and true to what we got from our gurus. Then we won't go wrong. And always, whenever you find any difficulty, run to the shelter of the Vaishnavas. Call out the names of the Vaishnavas. Take solace in the company of the Vaishnavas. That'll save you. In any circumstance, that'll save you. Is that all right?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we got to stop now. But thank you all for listening to me. Hare Krishna. Jai. 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 Haribo.
All right, well, we're very grateful to Sripad Devashish Prabhu, who can naturally speak 1 hour, 2 hours. That's nothing for him. He can talk Harikatha everyone under the table. As long as you will listen, he can go on. So we are sorry to say that, we will move on to our next activity because we are so much appreciative of Prabhu's beautiful representation of our Guru Varga. But just for a pause, we can say, until we get to hear from Prabhu next time, we'll segue if we can have a little kirtan. And while the kirtan is going on, we're going to set up the